Okay, hello, my dear students. Welcome to our English program for today. Today we are going to continue our unit 9, lesson 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Our unit entitled A Green World. Today we are going to talk about or continue our talking about how to keep our environment safe and how to deal with the serious problem that our world face and how to solve it. Okay. These are some pictures of the problems that our world faces these days, like global warming, floods, climate change, and so on. We talked about these issues last session, but I want to ask you, have you ever heard about an initiative or any point or any way that set up to help our environment? Any answers or any solution to the problems that face our world? Have you ever thought about that or heard about that? Our lesson will answer all of these questions. Before we start, let's check some meaning of some vocab. Burn. If something is burning, it's on fire. We call it burn. Destroy. Damage something so badly that you cannot repair it. Promise. Say you will do something. You promise someone that you will do something. Power. Special ability to do something. Fossil fuels here natural materials such as petrol, oil that you can burn for energy or for getting energy. Air conditioning, it's a machine that we have in our homes that makes the air in a room stay cool or warm. Rechargeable battery, something that gives power to a machine, a toy, a car, and so on, which you can continue to add energy to, so they continue to work. A battery that can recharge it again and again and again. Remote control is a machine that you can control from far away, like TV, remote control, and so on. Solar farm. What do you mean by that? It's an area with many solar panels that provide electricity. Desertification means changing an area into a desert. Initiative, that is our lesson will be today, something to improve a difficult situation, like Great Green Wall Initiative, and you will hear about that later on. Region is an area of a country. Source, it may be a person, a thing, or a place that gives you information. Interrupt, if you interrupt someone, you speak to stop someone else from speaking. That's an attempt of you to stop someone from speaking. Landscape, a view showing an area of land. Create means to make or produce something. Now I'm going to have some synonym and antonym. Awesome. What does it mean? It means amazing. And the antonym is terrible. Difficult, it's hard. And the antonym is easy. Enormous means large. And the antonym is tiny. Frightened, afraid. And the antonym is brave. Horrible means terrible. And the antonym is attractive or wonderful. Inexpensive means cheap. And the antonym is expensive. Produce, make, or create, and the antonym is destroy. To reduce something means to decrease it or lower it, and the antonym is increase. Renewable means sustainable, and the antonym is non-renewable. Right means correct, and the antonym is wrong. Worried means anxious, and the antonym is unworried. Totally means fully, and the antonym is partially or partly. Agree means accept or allow, and the antonym is disagree. Forget means ignore something, and the antonym is remember. Personally means individually, and the antonym is publicly. Advantage means benefit or pros, and the antonym is disadvantage or cons. Improve means develop, and the antonym is damage. Beautiful means pretty or lovely, and the antonym is ugly. Introduction means refers or start, and the antonym is conclusion. Totally means fully or completely, and the antonym is partially. Possible means probable, and the antonym is impossible. Include, continue, and the antonym is exclude. Reduce means decrease, and the antonym is increase. Now let's move to something else. We are going to have some suffix and prefix. If we have the word bad, if we add ly to the adjective bad, we will have an adverb badly. Electric, by adding ity, changes into a noun electricity. Frighten as a verb, if we add ed, it becomes an adjective frightened. Total, by adding ly, becomes totally adverb. Work, if we add the suffix er to the verb or the noun work, it becomes worker. Condition, by adding ing, become conditioning. Some prefix, some letter we add at the beginning of the word to change the meaning. Expensive, if we add n before it, it becomes inexpensive, means cheap. Worried, if we add un, it becomes unworried, means satisfied or relaxed. Person, if we add el, becomes personal. Organize plus er becomes organizer. Fish becomes, if we add ing, becomes fishing. Form, by adding ing, become forming. Grow, by adding ing, becomes growing. Live becomes, if we adding ing, becomes living. View, if we add enter, becomes interview or interview. Prove, if we add im at the beginning, becomes another verb, it's improve. Agree, by adding das, becomes disagree. So the meaning is completely changed. Now we are going to have some language notes. Our last session, we dealt with use to when we want to talk about past habits. Like if I always use it to get the newest phone. I use it to get it. Of course, but now I don't. طب look at this example. He gets used to living in the countryside. What does this sentence mean? Does it mean he lived in the countryside in the past? Or he's living nowadays? Or what's the meaning of it? Of course, it means it was hard at the beginning to live in the countryside, but by the time he became familiar with living in the countryside, he becomes accustomed to the living in the countryside. So if we put verb to be or get in front of use to, we have verb plus ing after it, and it means accustomed to something or familiar with it, becomes familiar with it. It means that it was hard at the beginning to do something, but by the time I become familiar with it. It becomes easy to me. Okay. Now let's move to another point. How can we differentiate between live or life, living, alive, and lively? Live as a verb means to settle in a place. I live in Cairo now. What about live? It's an adjective, of course. Means it's not recorded, like we are alive now. For example, the match was live. Alive, an adjective as well, means not dead. My grandpa is still alive. What about lively? It's an adjective as well. It means interesting or energetic. She has, or he has, a lovely lifestyle. What about living? Of course, it's a noun. She works hard to earn a respectable living. He works for a living. Life means life in general. الحياة يعني بصفة عامة. Life is very short. Okay. The next part of our session today, we will talk about the problem that our world face and try to find some solution for these problems. We will start with a comprehension entitled The Iron Woman. Okay, let's read. One day, a girl called Lucy was surprised to see the Iron Woman. Have you ever heard about the Iron Woman? Yes, it's a famous one. She was enormous with big red eyes. Lucy was frightened, but she found that the woman wanted Lucy to help her. Lucy's father worked at a factory, and the Iron Woman asked her where the factory was. Pollution from the factory was killing all the fish in the river, so she wanted to destroy it. The Iron Woman had special powers, so that she was able to make all the factory workers become fish. She turned them from people into fish. The workers all had to live in the river and started to understand how difficult life was for the fish. They experienced the difficult circumstances the fish live in. So Lucy wanted to help the Iron Woman, but she was worried about her father because he was one of the workers. So after the Iron Woman left, Lucy called a boy called Hogarth. He was friends with the Iron Man. If you brought the Iron Man here, said Lucy, we could find an answer to the problem. The next day, Lucy met Hogarth and the Iron Man at the factory. When the Iron Woman arrived, the Iron Man told her that he had a plan. Soon, the Iron Woman let them become people again. They could stay people on one condition. What is it? If they promised that the factory wouldn't produce any more pollution. They all agreed and the river became clean once more. From this passage, it conveys a secret message or a hidden message. There are a lot of factories all over the world, but some of these factories pollute our environment. They make dangerous effect on our environment. And what is the solution for this? This is the message of our passage. Okay, now what did the worker understand when they become fish? Did the message reach them? They understand what happened to the fish? They suffer the same problem? Okay. Number 2, what's the synonym of help? Is it destroy, assist, develop, and or hinder? Okay, take your time to think of the answers. Okay, let's check. Of course, this is a picture of a fish that suffer in a polluted water. Okay. What did the workers understand when they become fish? The workers all had to live in the river and started to understand how difficult life was for fish. So they understood the message. Okay. What is the synonym of help? Of course, it's assist. Okay, let's move to another point. Okay. Do you think that we can produce electricity from rubbish? Have you ever thought of that? From our rubbish, we can produce electricity. Is it acceptable? Is it possible? Okay, after reading the text, will we find the answer to this question? A large factory in Denmark has an inexpensive way of producing renewable energy. What do we mean by inexpensive? Not expensive or poor or cheap way. How did they producing renewable energy? Through burning rubbish. It burns rubbish. If the factory did not burn the rubbish, it would go to landfill sites. So, by burning the rubbish, the factory produces enough electricity for 150,000 homes. If the factory burned fossil fuels to make this electricity, it would produce a lot more greenhouse gases. So, what is the solution? There is a garden on the roof of the factory. So, the plants there absorb some of the air pollution that comes from the factory. And there is something amazing as well. You can also ski down the roof. Isn't that amazing? Of course, it's an amazing. Okay. Do you think that we can produce electricity from rubbish? Sure, you get the answer. Also, I want you to answer or to think about the answer of these questions. A factory in Denmark has a cheap way of making renewable energy. Try to explain. Okay, take your time to think of the answer. Okay, let's find the answer together. Do you think that we can produce electricity from the rubbish? Yes, of course. Of course we can. And we have the evidence here. We have a factory in Denmark that turns the rubbish into a source of renewable energy. Okay. The factory in Denmark has a cheap way of making renewable energy. Okay, it burns rubbish. By burning the rubbish, the factory produces enough electricity for 150,000 homes. So through our rubbish, we have a lot of rubbish here in Egypt. We can get renewable energy. We can get energy from it. We can make electricity or generate electricity or any other kind of energy which can be renewable again and again. We can use it more than once. Okay. Let's move to another point. In the next part of our session, we are going to talk about the same problem. The dangers that our world face. Before we read, in your opinion, how can people help the environment? How can we help it? How can we keep it safe? Okay, these are some posts from some boys and girls. Some of them replaced some stuffs which are not friendly to the environment with some other ones which are friendly to the environment. So they use something friendly to the environment instead of other thing which is harmful to the environment. Okay. Number 3, what do you do to help the environment? Have you done up anything? Have you ever thought that if you use something which is harmful to environment, can we replace it with another thing which is useful or friendly to the environment? If you find something dangerous or makes bad effects on the environment, have you ever to replace it? Thought of replacing it with another thing? Okay, let's read and we will find the answer. Some boys and girls from USA told us we are using the air conditioning less often. In the summer, when it's very hot, that is difficult, especially at night, but you get used to it. We can't use our computer less often, though because we need it for work. So Dom and Julia Bowden from USA told us about that they can or cannot replace their stuffs with new ones. The second one, I always used to get the newest phone. I have stopped doing that now because it isn't sustainable. Oh, and now I use rechargeable batteries for the TV remote control and my computer mouse. Southern from Egypt. Another girl. I live in the country and I need to have a car. I have bought an electric car because it's greener. What do you mean by greener? Of course, it's mean friendly to the environment. Also, I always take a reusable bag when I go shopping. What do you mean by reusable bag? Bags that are made of paper that can be used again and again and doesn't harm the environment. These are from Australia. We are going to give up living in the city. They are going to leave the city because we want to grow our own vegetables. They want to grow their own vegetables and live a simpler life. Of course, living in the countryside is more simpler than living in a city. If we stayed in the city, we wouldn't be able to do that. Luke and Emily from France. So, after reading these spots, can you think of a way to help your environment? Okay. Can you tell me who hasn't given up anything yet? Then, I want you to answer the last question, post-reading question, after reading the text together. Which of the things in the web posts would or wouldn't you be able to give up or do to help the environment? Can you replace something which causes danger to our environment to another one which is beneficial to our environment? Can you sacrifice that? Can you do that in order to help our environment? Okay, let's check the answers. Of course, it may accept any answer, the questions. The question may accept any answers. In your opinion, how can people help the environment? By doing, of course, a lot of things. For example, by using materials that don't harm our environment. This is general answer. After reading the posts, who hasn't given up anything yet? Luke and Emily, and Dom and Julia Bowden. Luke and Emily, here, they give up living in the city. They sacrifice living in the city in order to live in the countryside to have a simpler kind of life. Of course, which it's healthier or friendly to the environment. What about Dom and Julia? They cannot give anything. They are using air conditioning. They are using their computers because they need it for work. Okay. What about the answer to these questions? Which of the things in the web post would or wouldn't you be able to give up or do to help the environment? Why and why not? Of course, if you have yes or no answers. For me, I can use the air conditioning less. What about you? What is your idea? What's your opinion about this? What can you do? Think of another answer. You can do a lot of things. Okay. Now we are going to listen to some kind of stories that has a moral. We are going to listen to a conversation about their woman. Okay. After listening, we will discuss some point together. Okay. Let's see. Let's listen to it.
Students.
Sorry.
Student's Book, Unit 9, Lesson 3, Exercise 5. Listen to a conversation about the Iron Woman. Who liked the story more, Dina or Judy?
What did you think of the story, Dina?
I liked it. I think the message is easy to understand. Factories should not produce pollution.
I agree, but the Iron Woman wanted to destroy the factory. I don't think that's right. If we didn't have factories, we wouldn't have so many things to buy in the shops.
That's why the Iron Man had a different plan. He didn't want to destroy the factory.
Yes, some of the factory workers probably didn't like the pollution, but if they didn't work at the factory, they wouldn't have any money.
Yes, but when they became people again, they promised that the factory would not produce any more pollution. So his plan was a good one.
That's true. How do you think they made the river clean once more?
Perhaps the factory started to use renewable energy.
You're right. If the factory used renewable energy, it wouldn't produce pollution.
And if it didn't produce pollution, then everyone would be happier.
Of course, if some factories didn't use materials that pollute our environment, that will make our world better. If they use renewable kind of energy, they won't produce pollution. Okay. What kind of story do you like reading? Of course, if there are different kinds of stories, adventure stories, mysterious one, and so on. The question what we want to answer or to find the answer for it, how do you think we can help stop factory pollution? And the last one, who liked the story more, Dina or Judy? Try to think of the answer for these two questions. Okay, let's check. Question, how do you think we can help stop factory pollution? Of course, they can use cleaner technology and use renewable energy, so they won't reduce pollution. Who liked the story more, Dina or Judy? Dina liked it more. Let's check another point. Listen to a conversation about energy which we use in our home. How can we save energy in our home? Listen first, then we will discuss it later on.
Workbook, Unit 9, Lesson 4, Exercise 3. Listen to the conversation about energy use in the house. Choose the correct answers.
Hannah, have you seen this diagram of what uses most electricity in the home?
No, I haven't. What does it say, Inji?
It says that air conditioning and heating use the most electricity. In fact, these use nearly 50% of the home's electricity.
That's a lot. What uses the second most?
Hot water. That uses about 15% of the home's electricity.
What about things in the kitchen? Don't they use much electricity?
They don't use very much. The fridge and the oven both use about 4%.
That's interesting. And what about the TV and computers?
Televisions use about 3% and computers about 1%.
Okay, so if I wanted to save electricity,
I would use less air conditioning and heating. That's right. Oh, and turn off the lights too. They use about 12% of the house's electricity.
Okay. After listening, mention two devices that use most electricity in our homes. And what about the least ones? In our dialogue, they mentioned two devices which use the most electricity in our homes. And they talked about two other devices which use the least electricity in our home. What are they? Okay, let's check.
Workbook, Unit
Of course, the two devices that use the most electricity in the home, air conditioning and heating, they use the most electricity. So if we reduce using air conditioning and heating, we will save much electricity. And of course, we will save our planet from producing more and more and more electricity from different sources. What about the least two ones that use the least energy or the least electricity? Of course, televisions and computers or computers. Okay. How can we save electricity? Or how can we save energy? Of course, by using less air conditioning and heating. Okay, so from this conversation, saving electricity is so important for our life. It's so important for our country. To reduce our usage of energy or of electricity is something very important. So we must think of this issue to help our country and help our environment as well. Okay, we are going to listen again to a television interview about the solar farm. What do you mean by a solar farm? Have you ever thought of that? Solar energy? That's the energy we get from the sun? How can we get that? By producing it in a place called the solar farm. Okay, after listening, we will discuss these points. Listen first.
Students' Book, Unit 9, Lesson 5, Exercise 1. Listen to this television interview about a solar farm. Where is it?
So, Mrs. Jones, tell us why your community decided to build a solar park on this farmland. This area is popular for tourism, and people come here to enjoy the countryside and the beautiful views of trees and hills. Many people would say the solar park is ugly. They don't want to see lots and lots of ugly solar panels in the countryside.
I don't agree. Personally, I think that the solar panels are beautiful. We need to create clean energy that doesn't pollute the environment. Solar panels produce clean, renewable energy. In my opinion, we need to stop burning fossil fuels, which create greenhouse gases and cause climate change.
What do you think about the solar park, Mr. Brown? Do you agree with Mrs. Jones?
I agree that we need clean, renewable energy, but I don't agree that we should build solar parks in the countryside. We should build them in cities, near factories. And I don't agree that they're beautiful. They're ugly, and they destroy the countryside. Farmers need this land.
I totally disagree. The solar panels don't destroy the countryside. This solar park was built on one field. No trees were cut down, and the farmer can still keep his sheep in the fields. The sheep can walk under the solar panels to eat the grass. And don't forget, the solar panels produce money for the community. It helps us all. In my opinion, every community should have their own source of energy.
Well, thank you both for talking to us today. Now it's time to go back to the studio.
Okay, after listening, we have different opinions about having solar farm or solar panels in the countryside. At the beginning, what do you mean by solar farms? We use solar panels to generate electricity from the sun. They collect a large group of solar panels and put them on a farm in the countryside to produce electricity. We have different opinion about having this farm in the countryside. Some people support the idea that we generate cleaner energy, which is something good, but other people thought that having it in the countryside destroys the countryside, destroys the life in the countryside. We have different opinions here. Which one do you support? Okay. For me, I support having it in the countryside. It doesn't destroy the life there. Okay. Answer the following questions. Where is the solar panel or where is the solar farm? Why should we use solar farms? Try to get the answer. Okay, let's check.
Students' Book, Unit.
For number 1, what is the solar farm? Of course, it's on a farmland in the countryside. Here, they told us it's on a farmland in the countryside. Why should we use solar farms? Why? Why it's important to our environment to use solar panels? To create clean energy. To create clean energy that doesn't pollute the environment. Solar panels produce clean, renewable energy, which is very, very beneficial and very helpful to our environment. We have in Egypt some kind of that forms. We are working in that point to make electricity or produce electricity or clean energy from the sun by using solar panels. Okay, we are going to deal with something else. We are going to read about an initiative in Africa which tries to help the environment. What do you mean by initiative? We have just said it's a way to solve a problem. Think in a clear way to solve or get solution for the problems. Okay, let's start reading. The area shown on the map, of course, this area. Here we have the red line. Yes, here in the middle of Africa. They are going to build, or they are work on it now. Great Green Wall. They are going to build a wall across Africa. What for? Let's read and find the answer. The area shown in the map is called Sahel region. It's south of Sahara Desert. Of course, we have Sahara Desert here in the middle of Africa. And it used to be quite green, but now it has also become a desert. Can you think of any reason for why it become desert? Okay, let's read. This report is about a green initiative in Africa, which is called the Great Green Wall. This is the name of the initiative. This initiative was set up in 2007 by the African Union, a group of African countries decided together. They I gathered in a union to take some steps or get some solution for the problem. The African Union to solve the problem of desertification. What do you mean by desertification? We had it in our last session. Yes, the Greenland become a desert. In the Sahel region in Africa, desertification happens when green land becomes a desert. In the Sahel region, this has happened because climate change is creating more droughts every year. What do you mean by droughts? We had it in the last session as well. Okay, we don't have much rain. Okay, and people do not always farm the land well because of the drought, of course. People cannot grow food and they are losing their farms and homes. The Great Green Wall Initiative will plant millions of trees, seedlings, small plants, and plants across Africa from the west to the east. Why? To create a growing green landscape, to create a large part of green landscape. When it finished, the wall will be 8,000 kilometers long. It will be the biggest living thing in the world. It will create a job for 10 million people. The trees and plants will improve the land for farming again, and people will be able to grow crops. So the Great Green Wall, will improve the lives of everyone who lives in the Sahel region. It will also help reduce the problems caused by climate change for the whole world. And of course, this is the most important thing. Reduce the problems that caused by climate change. This is an initiative in Africa which works on reducing the bad effects or the bad impacts on our environment, which is caused by, of course, global warming or climate change. Okay, after reading this passage, try to answer these questions. Why was the initiative called the Great Green Wall Setup? Why was it set up? Second one, why are people in that region losing their farms and homes? Okay, take a second to think of the answer. Okay, let's check. What is the aim of the initiative of the Great Green Wall? Of course, the aim of it, the Great Green Wall Initiative will plant millions of trees, seedling and plants across Africa from west to east to create growing green landscape, which will reduce the pollution or the bad effect on the environment. Why was it set up? To solve the problem of desertification in the Sahel region of Africa. Why are people in that region losing their farms and homes? So they are making this initiative for that. They are losing their farms and homes because climate change is creating more droughts every year, and people do not always farm the land well. Now we are turning to another point. So our unit is talking about the problems that our world face and how to solve these problems to save our country and to save our world as a whole. Okay, now we are going to have an exercise concerning the vocabulary. Number one, energy is energy from the sun to produce electricity. What kind of energy? Wind, solar, moon, or a star. Number two is a large wheel which is turned by water flowing through it. Number three, if something is on fire, burning, freezing, cooling. Number four, the car industry just come out with an electric car. It's a car that dots the environment, damages, harms, hurts, or helps. The food taste is horrible. The antonym of horrible is terrible, ugly, wonderful, or bad. Number six is a natural material such as petrol and oil that you can burn for energy. air conditioning, fossil fuels, remote control, rechargeable batteries, or what? Many countries try to produce green energy. Another meaning for produce is what? Waste, leave, create, or abandon. Number 8. That store had to reduce prices. The synonym of reduce is what? Decrease, increase, raise, or heighten. We get the opposite of the word of worried by adding the prefix re, un, m, or this. The last one, we change the adjective total into an adverb by adding the suffix full or meant or ly or. Let's get this answer quickly. Our time is running out. Of course, solar energy is energy from the sun. We use it to produce electricity. Number 2, water wheel is a large wheel which is turned by water flowing through it. If something is burning, it's on fire, of course. The car industry just came out with an electric car. It's a car that helps the environment. Of course, the electric cars help the environment. The food, this is horrible. Antonym of horrible, of course, is wonderful. But terrible and ugly and bad are synonym. Fossil fuel is a natural material such as petrol, oil, and so on. Many countries try to produce cleaner energy. Another meaning for produce, of course, create. That store had to reduce prices. The synonym of reduce, decrease. We get the opposite of worried by adding the prefix unworried. For the last one, we change the adjective total into an adverb by adding the suffix lay, becomes totally. Okay, another kind of exercise. Complete the bags with the words from the list. Initiatives, settling, energy, saving light bulbs. Of course, we have now on all our homes, energy saving light bulb, the light bulbs. They use less electricity, less energy. Bamboo, we talked about it in our last session. Air conditioning and sustainable. Sustainable means continue for a long period of time and friendly to the environment as well. Something that doesn't harm the environment. There are many green dots across the world, which are helping to protect the environment. There are projects to build solar farms to create green energy. There are projects to plant and trees to give us cleaner air. At home, people are choosing to use rechargeable batteries and dots. Some people are buying more products made of dots, which is dots and doesn't cause pollution. Some people are even using dots less often because it uses so much energy. Okay. I will give you a minute. Okay, let's check the answers. There are many initiatives across the world which are helping to protect the environment. There are projects to build solar farms to create clean energy. There are projects to plant seedlings and trees to give us clearer air. At home, people are choosing to use rechargeable batteries and energy-saving light bulbs. Some people are buying more products made of bamboo, which is sustainable and doesn't cause pollution. Some people are even using air conditioning glass. Often, it's of course as well, it's correct, because it uses so much energy. Okay, this is the last part of our unit 9. We have finished it already. أتمنى تكونوا استفدتوا معانا. You get the benefit of our session. أشوفكم المرة الجاية على خير. Thank you and goodbye. كان معكم سحر عراقي.